issued a communique, Yahya Amina Sharif,
Okay.
as well. And then the European Parliament voted 550 votes in favor of Yahya Amina Sharif.
Oh, wow.
Um, seven said no, three abstained. So, the government
Progress.
has its job pretty cut out clearly for it.
All right.
So that's in a nutshell.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Now let's move on to Nigeria. And our conversation today will be centered around civil rights and liberties existent in our dear country, Nigeria. Now let's talk about the protest, because we'll be narrowing down all of these conversations to the protest. Now, different versions, of course, different things have been said about the August 1st proposed protest. And we have seen lots of political office holders come out to say, you know what, you guys should be discouraged, trying to discourage Nigerians from going on that protest. But again, seeing the realities that we have on ground, the economic realities particularly, which is one of the reasons that we have this protest being put out there over and again. And, citizens are not relenting. In fact, we had that conversation here yesterday on radio. Now, a couple of people said we need to have that protest because certain things are not going right. Then we have pockets of people also saying there's no need to go on the protest, because it is sponsored by a particular person. But first, let me just hear what your thoughts are about the August 1st proposed protest.
Well, let me say that protest is a fundamental human right.
Of course.
You have a right to protest. It's constitutionally guaranteed. It's guaranteed
All right.
under international law. Even the current government is filled of protesters. Ashiwaju himself used to protest. AU is a legendary protester during the June 12 elections and the annulment of the elections.
Yes.
He battled the military to a standstill. He even had to flee into exile. It was a direct confrontation with the Abacha government for many years, with Nadeku and everything. So he understands what protest is. He's from the trenches himself. So he can't easily have forgotten the power of protest. Having said that, the government has reasons for being fearful because they've refused to listen to the people for so long. You're telling people to tighten their belts, and they can see you living large, driving in convoys of cars. All these cost a lot of money to fuel. You don't pay for your food. The American president and the first lady pays for their food in the White House. You live large. We can hear the budget. So like as the Jonathan years when they've been presenting their budget to the National Assembly, and people will be, what are they eating in there? Is it Gucci beans or whatever?
Gucci beans.
It's the insensitivity to the people. Yes. I mean, what's the president's son doing in the council chambers? He looks like a jobless person. And until his father had to order him out and give instructions, he shouldn't come. The audacity of impunity going on. That is what people are angry about. And the government's hands are not clean. We saw it in NSAS, how the government itself became a sponsor of demonstrations and riots. Do rioters go, or rather protesters, do they go to protest in black SUVs, in jeeps, all these fat jeeps that are driven by government?
Well, someone said that yesterday, and I'm like, you don't have any proof for that. So
we have proof. We have proof. It was shown on TV. It was shown on some of your sister channels, on sister stations. It was shown on TV, and we saw it. We saw the pictures go viral on Twitter with government-sponsored goons, in suits and ties. So the government, EU goes to equity must go with clean hands.
Exactly that. So now, do you support I was watching an interview where Femi Falana, is a renowned lawyer, of course, and he was of the opinion that I'm not going to be part of a protest that I don't know who is organizing, because this AWS or AWC is a recent name. A lot of people that has come to come on air, comment everywhere. But he's saying I'm not going to be part of a protest I don't know who is organizing. What do you think about that?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Civil disobedience comes in various ways.
Okay.
And one of the things that the government fears in civil disobedience, even when you have people go out on the streets, like in America, where people were campaigning for Gaza, and you could see all the universities were taken over and all. There's another form of protest that government fears a lot. And you saw it during June 12, 1993, 94. Civil disobedience. People just sit down at home.
Break the law.
They just sit down, they don't go to work, they don't do anything. That's even more fearful, and that is why the government has been challenging the status quo of what is happening in the eastern region. I use that blankly, because the amount of commerce being lost on every Monday when someone says sit at home, don't go to work, we want to cripple the economy, etc. It's more alarming that the figurehead of this protest, Nnamdi Kanu, I'm talking about the protest in the East, is in custody. And he's not even in a position to stop what is going on. Someone just sits in a studio in Norway and issues a command and is being obeyed all over eastern Nigeria. And people sit down and talk. That is even more fearful.
Yes.
That's a more fearful form of protest, civil disobedience. So, and as I said, protest is constitutional. It's a duty of the law enforcement to actually provide security for people, to make sure, that there's no breakdown of law and order. But if I were the president, I would join the protests.
Please explain that.
Yeah, because it's the easiest way to nip it in the bud. And he has the experience. Climb the podium, pick up the microphone, apologize to the people. Tell them that you've heard their pain. Tell them that you go back to the drawing board. Empathize. You just sit down in one protected compound and cut away from the reality of life, and you'll be saying people should not protest. I've heard you. They want to see it demonstrated. How can you be going to the airport? You have like 50 vehicles, all fueled up. You got 17 vehicles in the convoy of a minister. All of you looking good, wearing all your clothes well starched. I mean, people are hungry, and they're telling. It's like I gave this example in a program yesterday. You have parents, and they're living large. Dad and mom keep eating pepper soup, having starters, having this, and the children are hungry and their belly aching and rubbing their belly. Oh, daddy, mommy, we're hungry. We've not eaten anything, and you are eating. They see you eating all the rich things, and you say, "Don't worry. I've heard you. Let me finish my food first." And then you are rubbing their tummy and say, "Don't worry, just bear with me. Bear with." These kids are going to rebel.
Exactly. So we see that turnout here, and a couple of people, like I said, think it's an unnecessary move, which they are entitled to their opinion as well. Now, let's talk about the Bayo Onanuga's allegation on Peter Obi, because again, some people share in that sentiment that it was fueled by Peter Obi supporters, and Onanuga went straight up to say, you are the person who has, fueled this protest, or there's a word that he used. It's just more like you incited the people, to come about this August 1st protest and what have you. And now, for some people, I mean, the situation is very evident. So anybody who says, okay, go out and fight for your right, might not even be in the wrong to say that, because this is not even Dangote himself. I saw a tweet yesterday where the person was talking about how Dangote cracked a joke, and he's saying, if they go to heaven and they say entrepreneurs from Nigeria come here, if he comes forward, God's going to tell him, go, you have served your punishment. And it was very funny to see. But again, if somebody like that is grappling with the current realities of the economy, think of the common man on the streets, would it be wrong for someone to say, okay, yes, I encourage that? But again, accusing someone, you're a human rights lawyer, and he's talking about suing Bayo or Onanuga for that allegation. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, if on board with so many things,
let's take it step by step.
So the first one, some people say protests are in order, some people say protests are not in order. It all depends on the side of the divide which you're on.
Okay.
I mean, if your bread is being buttered by this government, you see no harm in what is going on.
Of course.
And people who are hungry would say, hey, we're hungry. And the president himself saw it vividly in Lagos. One of his first visits to Lagos, and he was driving through his stomping his neck of the woods, his stomping grounds in Lagos Island, and people were shouting, "They being power." Which other direct evidence do you need from the streets? They already told you. They were screaming and shouting and saying, "They being power, they being power," just months after the election. Regarding Bayo Onanuga and a very senior colleague in journalism, I trained as a journalist for studying law, and then you have Peter Obi. Why is the government so afraid of one man? And the elections are over. Let's move on and build our country. Yeah, let's move on and build our country. Even Dangote is protesting. What do you think Dangote is doing? Well, regarding the refinery and the cabal and the cartel he keeps complaining about, that's a form of protest. The man shouted and said, look, this is what they're trying to do. As a matter of fact, if they want to buy me out, I'm willing to sell off the refinery. That's exasperation. It's a form of protest. And you've seen Femi Otedola come, with his tweets, aiding his friend and saying, it should be celebrated. Yeah. So, as they say in Nigeria, everywhere red. Everybody is groaning. Even the rich are crying now. Exactly. So if Mr. Onanuga feels slighted or Mr. Peter Obi feels slighted, the courts are there. for redress. In this case, I hope it's not going to be the famous go to court, because
it's looking like it already.
When that
because
phrase is used,
it's looking like
we
it's
must
already.
be worried.
Okay.
Especially in recent times, we had a flawed election, deeply flawed election, where we had a prof who headed INEC promising what he couldn't deliver. When we have all these statements online, the interview with the BBC, etc., is there. You promise so much, you deliver so little. It makes people feel disgruntled. All this they're all interwoven. It makes people feel disgruntled. They feel their voices were not heard. The people who they wanted to be in power are not in power. And that's why they're also saying, "Oh, this is politically motivated," and they're trying to hang it on the neck of Mr. Peter Obi. First, I must let you know that I'm apolitical. I'm not a member of any political party.
Okay.
I can speak my mind the way I want to say it, in line with constitutional provisions and the ambit of the law. So far as I'm not breaking any law and I'm not injuring anyone, I'll say my mind and I can speak freely. Okay. So in this situation now, where we are, I think the government should just should stop quaking in their boots anytime Peter Obi speaks or whatever.
It's looking like there's something there.
We should move on, But I also think it's a sign of the times. Who would have thought we would have had an American president who would be so uncouth with his speech like Donald Trump was? And then, you saw, you could visibly see how America has changed in the last couple of years, on presidential language being hurled during debates and everything. So I guess I wish we would have a more British-style parliamentary system, which we used to do before, and adapt it to our local needs. Okay, so a tale of two cities, so to speak, or a tale of two countries. You saw the election process in England. 14 years, the Conservatives were in power. They refused to listen to the people. They did Brexit. It blew up in their face. There was an expenses scandal where politicians were fiddling with the purse. So it doesn't only happen in National Assembly.
Yes. It's a trend, it's a trend.
Some of them actually